Hello, welcome. I hope you are having a beautiful day. And today I really wanted to review the book that I'm reading by Brian Tracy. It's called No Excuses: The Power of Self Discipline. And a few things that really brought me to it that I wanted to share. One of them being that I really wanted to get back into my mental fitness. I talk a lot on my channel about physical fitness and how to get fit and how to make sure that it's easy breezy and that, we're not overcomplicating things. And when it comes to certain projects, in particular, I think YouTube or a particular project I want to do, I get so much resistance sometimes. And also, I tend to go on these oops. I tend to go on these highs at the beginning, at the start of a project where I am so fully locked in. I'm like, oh, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to plan. I'm going to script. I have a few ideas. And then I fall off and become so overwhelmed, become so obsessed with certain things, perfection or not doing it right or X, Y, and Z. Like I come up with so many excuses. And I was hoping that this book, well, I'm not hoping, but you'll see that I have been learning a few things and kind of getting back into okay, what do I need to do in order to be successful on a project like YouTube or a project like back into physical fitness too. And so if you are looking for that, I hope that these first few chapters that I'm going to summarize are really helpful for you. So the book is laid out into three parts. The first part is about personal stuff, personal key ideas to your own self. The second part of the book is about self discipline in like business, entrepreneurship. And then the third part of it is like, how do you take self discipline into other areas of your life, like relationships, family, health, like overall, like in other aspects of your life. I was more interested in this. What this video is about is more of the personal, personal potential. Like, what are some skills that I can take and apply it to my life? And so we have 7 in this part. I'm only going to cover 3 in this video because covering them all right now is like a big task for me and I'm not ready for it. I tried the other day and it was just not working. So I will, though, briefly recap the 7. So the first one is success. The second one is character, responsibility, goals. Actually, I have them written down: personal excellence, courage, and persistence. And we're just going to dive into the first one, which is character. So essentially, Brian Tracy says success is foundational for anything you want to do in life. Anything worth tackling or worth pursuing requires self discipline. In order to be successful with anything you want in life, you need to be able to know how to cultivate self discipline. And I'm sure, like me, you have been a person that has had many accomplishments and have had many successes. And when you really peel down those layers, you realize that it really did take self discipline to get to that goal. And therefore, it's essential. He also in this chapter talks about that most of us have goals and aspirations that we kind of put in the future as someday goals, like someday I will do X, Y, and Z, and someday when I have more time, or someday when I'm less busy, or when I retire, or we come up with so many excuses to not go towards our goals because we essentially are stuck in excuse land. And he's saying essentially is that you need to be able to get out of that land. And he demonstrates this by some of the other chapters that we'll talk about later and how to get out of this excuse land. But essentially you can't there will always, I think I've talked about this before, like there's always excuses that you have, or that will you will make up for doing something. And essentially here you eliminate all excuses. And also in that same framework of like knowing that self-discipline is the key to success, you have to think, and this is the biggest point that I took on this chapter, is there's always going to be like the easiest way, and like there's always going to be ways of the like path of least resistance. And what he really encourages you to think is of long-term success. We don't want to take the easiest, the shortcut way, because we essentially nothing in life is easy. And really what you're trying to cultivate is like self-discipline throughout your life. You want to be a lifelong learner, and therefore you have to keep the long-term vision in mind. And again, he talks a little bit more in depth on the next few chapters. So the second chapter is about character. It's about building, essentially about building your higher self. Like who are you and who do you want to become? And one of the key things that he says here is that you have to be able to develop yourself and your own character by taking kind of accountability of who you are right now, what your values are, and how those values are shaping your beliefs, your thoughts, your actions, and essentially understanding that and then integrating some new beliefs and new values. And one of the biggest ones that he thinks that we should all embody is this idea of, or this value of integrity. We all should be doing the right thing all the time. And he essentially is saying that you should live every decision, every action, you should live in a character of your higher self, with making the decisions on a daily basis of as if somebody was watching you, which is kind of hard, but it's also just like a challenge that I've also been taking on upon myself, is catching myself, in instances where nobody is looking, to really choose the right choice at the moment. So like whether it be with food, or whether it be with my kiddos, or whether it be with my husband, like it's being more intentional about who you want to be, and making sure that you are aligning your decisions to that higher power. So integrity is a huge one that he believes that everyone should be able to add to a value that they live by. The third In the third chapter, he goes into how self-discipline is all about taking responsibility for everything that has happened in your life. Every decision, every event, where you are in your current circumstance is all based on your choices, and therefore you should take responsibility of everything that you have done up until this point. And a lot of that comes with making sure that we're not blaming circumstances, we're not blaming the past, we're not blaming certain people, and letting go of some of that resentment, some of that anger, some of that anger that we might have for a particular situation or a person. And in this chapter, he's essentially saying you are responsible, take responsibility for your life, and know that in every situation you have that responsibility. And it kind of reminds me of, like my 9-year-old is always like, I'm the boss of myself. And like, that's essentially what he's trying to say. Like, you're the boss of your actions, you're in control of your thoughts and your emotions. And therefore, he is advising that you take that responsibility and don't ever try to blame it on other situations or events. I know I'm reiterating, but essentially, take responsibility for your life. Don't blame any bad situation on anyone else, and essentially work within your own locus of control. Okay, so those are the top 3 chapters so far. I also wanted to kind of kind of create like a pros and cons so far. I really, really have enjoyed this book because it really has kind of centered me back into the things that I need to do in order to like progress. I really also enjoy that within the chapters, he has a few exercises that we can do in order to bring that awareness to ourselves. And then at the end of each chapter, he has some key takeaways, but also some really good questions that I ask myself and I journal about. So if you're really looking for a book that not only are you reading, but you're also actively engaging with, and you really want to do the work and really tackle on not, again, not being a passive reader. And this is another goal that I had for this book is I really wanted to be more engaged in the reading that I am in, like reading, because often I find myself just passively learning and not applying. And I think that's the big realization that I had while reading this book is that I need to be more of an active participant. And if I'm going to pick up a book, I'm going to engage in the exercises and the questions and really get the most out of the book versus just putting it on or passively reading or you know all of that. I think it also is such a good one to ease back into personal development books because it's so easy to read. The little subheadings make it really easy. I also find myself the stories that he provide it aren't complex. They're really easy to follow. They're not long. They don't it's just to the point. And I think with some of the other personal development books that I've read, they can be a little dense and I lose interest really fast. And so this one's such a quick read. I really have enjoyed the way that he just gets straight to the point. And like I said, one of the biggest things that I have really appreciated is just like not having to restart. I think that's like the main thing I want to get out of this book. Like, I want to be able to commit to something and do it on a consistent basis and find that self discipline to commit and know that, like so far what I've read, I've really enjoyed. It's like, it's not an instant, like an instant thing that will happen. It will be a long term journey. And I think even if I can apply some of those concepts to creating videos, I think that will be so helpful for me. And therefore, that's what I'm hoping to get out of this book. I guess some of the cons that I've come up with so far in terms of reading this book is that it really does it can if you read it, it can really be like, can I like it definitely makes you think twice about like, okay, I guess I should take like there's responsibility one. I was like, I guess I could take full responsibility. Like it feels, I don't know, I can't think of the word right now, but it just feels like very in your face. Like you're the issue. I'm the issue, which I am. And oftentimes, as I've been doing some of the reflections or the bringing that awareness to me, like I have to think like, okay, sometimes when I don't act in the way of my higher self, like I mentioned, it does get a little bit like I feel guilty in a way, like, this I could have done better, blah blah blah. Like I find myself in these negative loops, and so only to say is that like it is an ongoing practice, and that's what he's trying to make it be. Like it's not just like one habit. It's like a whole identity shift that is all based on small goals and small actions and small things that you do throughout the day that really add up. And I think that's the main thing that I have to keep in mind, that all of these things are going to add up eventually in the long run. And this also reminds me of another book that I've read called The Slight Edge, where again, it's the same concept. Like, it's not about radically changing your life, it's just about taking these small things and knowing that it'll build itself into something great, and you'll build yourself into a successful person over a long period of time. So yeah, those were the top 3. I hope that you enjoyed a little bit of my rambling. I also hope you're having a really great week, and I will catch you in the next one with hopefully the other 3 or the other 4 that I have left. Other than that, have a good one.